let's get started. Welcome to the November work session. We have several people out this evening for either personal or illnesses, so personal reasons or illnesses. So this is it. All right, first thing up, student representative report.
Hi, everyone. There's a lot going on at the high school right now, as usual. In this coming week, the WISE Club, which is the Women in Science and Engineering, they're running their yearly element. Is it just music? It's an hour and 24 minutes long. Wow, yeah.
Okay.
All right. So it's a yearly event that they do, the WISE Club, and it's to get elementary schoolers excited about science and engineering and math. So there are a lot of elementary schoolers that come. I'm not sure exactly how many, but we will try to get some pictures from that. Also, in engineering field, the engineering classes, we're taking a trip to Vanguard tomorrow to learn about all the engineering stuff that goes on at Vanguard. So we'll see. We'll see what they have to. We have to do there. Our author visit is coming up this Thursday from Dashka Slater. She rode the 57 bus. Students are able to get signed copies of the book if they want. Yeah, that's another thing. The Fall Drama Guild production, which is called the 39 Steps, is opening the 22nd and 23rd. I'm not exactly sure the times, but I'm sure they're on the website. And my favorite part is last Thursday, Chick-fil-A opened, and we already had GV students involved in two ways. First, 8 chamber singers went to Chick-fil-A the morning it opened and sung the national anthem for the opening. I think they got free breakfast from Chick-fil-A, which I've never had, but I'll definitely go and try. And secondly, at least 3 students, seniors, camped overnight to get a year's worth of Chick-fil-A. So I wish I was there, but I had other things to do. But apparently, yeah. Apparently they stayed out for 12 hours overnight, and it wasn't a very warm night either, so good job for them. And all the students, there's been murmurs of snow tomorrow, and so everyone's interested to see what's going to happen. Hopefully everyone's safe.
Because seniors don't make them up, right?
Yeah, our graduation's set.
Yeah, exactly.
We're out. And that's all I have. If there are any questions, yeah.
And how many open campus runs have been made to Chick-fil-A since opening?
None yet. Open campus hasn't started yet. So.
Next week, I
Oh,
believe.
okay.
Yes.
Capitolis told us today.
Maybe that's why it had to open.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. All right, CCIU.
So the CCI.
This one, okay. So the CCIU board does not meet until Wednesday a week. So what I am planning on attending that meeting. So what I will do is I will put together my update as well as, now we've never done this, but I request permission to do this, Dave. I've made great strides on that CCIU board, and that position needs to be restaffed. So what I would like to do for next week's meeting is prepare a white sheet as to what I've gone through in the last 2 years, where they are, and maybe just some things that might be helpful for the next person, because that's like my child, that CCIU board, you know it. We've made, Great Valley has influenced wonderful things on that board this year. And I really want that to continue, and I know it will. I have confidence that this board can staff that job. But I think with any new person taking a new position, that's valuable to have something written from the person who you're following. So if that's okay with you, I will bring that for next week, and then I will submit to Chuck after the 20th, the board update from the last meeting, and then he can include that in the agenda the next time.
Thank you.
Sure thing.
Perfect, thanks. All right, I'm moving on to program.
Little more than a week ago, Decision Insight provided the architects and myself with the 10-year enrollment projection that we had hired them to do. And they were going to do an electronic presentation tonight using the telephone system and so on. And we thought it might be better if we just did the presentation for them and answer, hopefully, any questions the board might have. And if there's any questions that we can't answer, we'll certainly go back to them and make sure that we get answers for you. Decision Insight prepared most of this PowerPoint presentation with the data they had. I added a slide or two. So this was the agenda they would have followed had they been here. They were going to spend quite a bit of time talking about all the different people they have working for them. We're going to trim that down a little bit tonight. Then we're going to jump into the demographics, data and trends, the historical enrollment analysis, proposed residential development, and finally the enrollment forecast. So I left a couple slides of who they are, and because that's kind of important to build a background for why they're good at what they do. So they were founded in 2004, and they're currently working with more than 170 districts in 12 different states. And they do enrollment forecasts, boundary consulting, new housing studies, trustee area studies, my school locator and bus stops, and other things. This is a chart of or a graphical portrayal of all the states they're working in currently, including, as you can see, Pennsylvania. And I only left one of the partners on here because this is the person we've been dealing with the most, Bruce Terry. And his background was that he was a K-8 principal, but he has more than 10 years with Decision Insight, and he's currently a support specialist, so that's why he's working with the architects and us in evaluating the information they're providing to us. So we're going to jump right into that demographic data. Some of this stuff doesn't necessarily tie right back to, some of it does, some doesn't tie right back to the actual enrollment projections, which is really what we want to get to tonight. But there's some very interesting things on here that I thought you would enjoy seeing. This one does tie directly back because it shows that our population is increasing. So this goes back to the 2000 census and the 2010 census. And so that data is accurate, and then from there, it does some projections. But the main point is it's showing that the population is growing, and at the same time, the number of households is growing, and the number of families is growing. And one of the things that jumped out at me, I don't know if it'll jump out at you, but I think it's, a common sense question, why are there so many more households than there are families? And the only explanation we could come up with is that it's also portraying single family or single person dwellings. So I think the difference between the household and the family would be the number of singles. But again, the important part is showing that trend's going up. So I think naturally we can assume that our population will continue to follow suit, our student population. And oh, by the way, this is the population in our school district. There's some interesting statistics here for our district. The study area is our school district, and the blue is the state of Pennsylvania, and this is showing that we have a very highly educated society. So our number of bachelor's degrees, the 35% far exceeds the state average of less than 20, and our number of graduate and graduate degrees far exceeds that of the state of Pennsylvania. Can you still hear me when I'm turning away from the mic? Okay, apologize. Employment, no surprise, we're mostly a white-collar community. 18.3% is blue-collar. And again, we trend positively in terms of the percentage of family below the poverty line. So the state of Pennsylvania, again, is quite a bit higher than our school district. Single-parent families, the state, our single mothers is less than the state, our single fathers is less than the state, and our married couples is more than the state. So all good data for our school district. This is a little bit hard to see, a little bit maybe hard to interpret, but it's showing the outline, the boundaries of our school district, and what it's trying to show is this dark color green is the most populated, or most densely populated. So if you look there, that's where the majority of our population is, in these dark green areas, and then the lighter colored areas has fewer people living in them. We get into the enrollment analysis from a historical perspective. For the last 4 years, I questioned why they had these as 137%, and it would have been better if they would have just said 37%. That's really what it's showing you, is that in a 4-year time frame, our kindergarten has increased by 37%, and that is, the number's so high because we went to full-day kindergarten this year. So that's in our numbers this year. It wouldn't be that high if we hadn't had that jump this year. But K-5 has gone up 15% in 4 years. 6 to 8 has gone up 9%, 9 to 12, 4%, and district-wide, we've had a 10% increase in our enrollment over a 10-year period. Please feel free to yell if you have questions as we go. Live births. This is showing that if you go back 5 years from, I think that's 2013, if you go back 5 years from then, this would be the live births, and this is how many kids showed up in kindergarten. The next year, it got a few more showed up according, and again, we have to emphasize these aren't the actual kids that were born that year, but when you compare the numbers that were born to the numbers that show up, that would include people that have moved into the area. And then here, you can see this jump, and then again, that's due to full-day kindergarten. So now we have, for the first time, we have a lot more showing up than from the live births. And it's not a lot more, it's just a few less. And if you remember the presentation I did a week ago, or a couple weeks ago, we had actually almost, if you break the year into the 9 months and 3, because the kid's born after September, our numbers were almost exactly, I think it was only a couple kids off from the live births compared to how many showed up that school year. We called these survival rates. They're calling them cohort aging. But what this is telling you is that, again, kindergarten going from kindergarten to first grade has a 128% survival rate. First grade to second, 108%. So if you had 100 kids in first grade and 100 showed up in second grade, that would be 100%. But because it's 108%, again, if you had 100, you would have 108 showing up in second grade. So this is showing that each and every year, until you get to 11th to 12th grade, or even 9th to 10th and 10th to 11 is 100%. But all of these numbers are higher than the ones that actually were there the year before, which again is showing that we're having more people move into our district.
That's changed over the years, because prior to growth, we always saw a drop from 5th to 6th, and then from 8th to 9th, right, as the kids went off to the private schools in the area. And so that's amazing how growth has changed that number so much,
For sure. This is just a graphical portrayal of where our students reside. And I just thought I'd put it in there to make sure that you see the work that this company did. They actually did plot every household in our district, and they know where the address, they know how many kids live in those places. So that's a pretty interesting graph there, or chart. Just our students, yes.
The ones outside the district, are those are the faculty? There's a couple dots I see on that, do you know? They're outside of our, they show up better on the iPad, I guess.
Yeah, I'll have to check on that. That would be a good assumption. I didn't ask that question.
Yeah,
It
I
could
just
be our
noticed.
non-resident students,
That's what I mean, yeah,
yes,
faculties, yeah.
students.
Yeah.
So they did a summary of the slides we just looked at, and they said the kindergarten enrollments fluctuated with a significant gain. We know why there's a significant gain, that most of our cohorts that we looked at a minute ago are more than 100%, we're gaining students, and that there's been about 400 student growth in the last 4 years. So that, all that is very important because they use the historical analysis to trend the future. Then, in addition to trending what we already have, the next important thing, and that's why the board really wanted to bring this company in, was what's happening with residential development. This is the result of the work that the company did by contacting each and every township and each and every developer and having those conversations about what developments are currently going, what do they expect to see in the future. And so this is showing 2020, if you take this first development here, they're expecting, these are multifamily units, they're expecting 122 to be complete in 2020, 122 more in 2021. The Atwater single unit attached, they're looking at 108 more units each year, 2020, 2021, and 2022. So this goes out to 2024, and in conversations with the company, they told us this was the only information that's available at this time. So they don't make any assumptions of what's going to happen with development after 2024 because there isn't any information available at this time. So in the future, if we continue to use this company for updates, we'll continue to carry that out into future years with the latest information.
It might be less misleading then to have a dash instead of a zero, just for the feedback for
Yeah,
them.
good
'cause
point.
That looks like it ends, so.
Or NA or something like that, yeah. So down at the bottom, and
No more property.
Chuck, why would there not be any information available?
because the developers haven't submitted for approvals, there hasn't been any permits issued, there isn't any construction drawings, out past those years. This is according to the information I got from Decision Insight in their consultation with all the folks that are approving these things and doing the development.
Do they ever take a look at land available within the district? Not necessarily what's been applied to break ground, but if you look at an aerial of our Great Valley area, there are lots of large plots that could essentially be sold over the next 10 years. Do they ever do any of that? Do they ever look at what your potential effect might be?
I don't know if they ever do that, but they did not do it in this case. And I asked that question because me being new to the area, I don't have as much familiarity as all you, because I was saying, is this going to continue? And they said that isn't what our role was in this case. So I think that's a good question we can ask in the future is what land is available? Do we expect this in the future when we redo these numbers? Will we see similar things happening in this area that we saw and again, part of that's going to depend on the economy too, as we all know.
We had that really big study done a few years ago, which showed open land and potential for development, but I don't know, if it needs to be updated or if, I don't know, just put it out there.
Yeah. What's the difference on single unit, attached, detached, multifamily? Do some of these unit types have more propensity for having students?
Yes. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the company uses statistics from all the different jobs they've done to determine, on average, how many kids show up in your schools from a single family, from a detached, from a multifamily, and then they multiply these numbers down here. You can see that in 2020, we're expecting 443 new units. So they take their numbers and they say a multifamily might generate 0.34 kids per. And so they have a number attached to each one of these, and they do the math to generate how many students they think these dwellings will generate. We'll see those in a minute here. Here's a summary of those types again. The multifamily is 134, attached 191, and detached 120 for a total of 445. And you're going to find as we go along here that they break this down into two different types. They do this both for the dwellings and the actual enrollment analysis. One they call a moderate and one they call a conservative. And I was actually mixed up earlier today. It was the opposite of what I thought. The moderate is a larger number. You're going to find as we go through here. The conservative, we're going to show you, they said if you want to be conservative with how many students are going to show up, here's the number. And if you want to be less conservative, to make sure if you do construction projects that you have enough capacity to house your students, you need to go with the moderate number. In terms of dwellings, the explanation they gave was that when you talk to developers and municipalities and everybody that's approving all these permits, in their experience across the United States, they're always more aggressive in what they think is going to happen than what actually happens. And they said that there's always something that goes wrong in these dwellings, the actual, that not 134 will actually hit in 2020, that there'll be delays, there'll be weather, there'll be something that goes wrong, so that only 93 of them will happen in that year instead of 134. And then they carry the number that's proposed out further in time. So they don't assume that there's going to be fewer than what the developer said there's going to happen. They just spread it out over more years than what they're being told. This is going to be hard for anybody to see that doesn't have it directly in front of them, but it shows where all the different residential developments taking place. So I think Atwater is right there somewhere, and I can't see it from here, but each of the different developments are listed, and that's important for us because then we can keep an eye on our attendance boundaries, and when they tell us how many students are going to generate from each one of these, we can kind of relate that back to our boundaries. This is proposed dwelling unit occupancy, again, with the moderate versus conservative, and it's what I just explained a few minutes ago. They're saying that if you look at the actual numbers the contractors told were going to happen, this is the blue line, but they think that fewer will actually happen that in the coming year. So they just spread it out over more years. So the totals are going to be the same, but so they assume more of the units will be complete out in these years instead of them all being done in the initial years. So again, this is the moderate versus the conservative, and it's showing that the students generated by the new development in the moderate is 787, in the conservative is 778. The number stays the same. It's just how soon do those students actually show up? Or how the students, this is students instead of housing. So now we get into the actual enrollment forecast, and they point out much of what you've been hearing every time these enrollment projections are done, that the primary factors are how many kindergartners show up, because they're going to matriculate through. The aging of the cohorts, in other words, are they staying over 100% or do they start to drop below 100%? The impact of new residential development. I don't think inter-district transfers affect us in this district except from one elementary school to another. Other factors are private and charter school enrollment, the housing market, foreclosures, and events such as business closures, fires, and so on. So I think this is kind of the message they keep saying, hey, here's our best guess, but remember, things can change as we go. So we're going to look at the conservative 5-year projection first. And when we get to the end of this presentation, I have a summary that I think will make it a little easier to understand the difference between these numbers. But in this conservative one, we're in 2019. This 4429 is the number of students we actually had on October 3rd or 1st, with the third day, October, when is it, 3rd? The October enrollment number. We had 4429, and that was a 3.5% change from the previous year. For next year, they're projecting with the conservative model that will go up to 4,555 students, which is a 2.8% increase. The next year's 2.5, 2.1, 2.7, and 1.9 in 2024. So in the conservative 5-year projection, we go from 4429 up to 4,998. The moderate one, the numbers are quite a bit higher, and so we look at a 4.5% increase next year, 4%, 2.7, 3.1, and 2.9, for a total of 5,248. Now, we've been on the conference calls with Decision Insight and the architects, and what Decision Insight said was, we always tell our architects that they need to use these moderate numbers for the planning purposes. So interestingly enough, tomorrow night when we have our meeting and start doing the brainstorming sessions for the feasibility study, the first thing the architects are going to do is talk about these updated enrollment numbers. And by using these moderate numbers, we've been talking before about elementary capacity is okay, high school capacity is okay, middle school is a problem. Now it's going to change, and they're going to say, we have to deal with elementary and we have to deal with middle school. So it's going to make the feasibility work a little bit more complex than we thought it might have been. That the architects will go over that all that tomorrow night, but they're going to show you that the capacities that they've estimated for those buildings, that the number of students that can be, and they talked to the board before about trying to stay in those 80%, 85% ranges, depending on the grade level, that we're going to exceed those capacity levels at the elementary schools without changing either grade structures or doing projects to increase capacity. So they compared the conservative and moderate numbers, and you can see the numbers, but again, I have one here at the end that I think will be even easier to understand, but they're showing that with the conservative number, there's a 113% increase in the 5 years, and with the moderate number, it's 118%. This chart is interesting. I think we've given this advice before that it's not as accurate to be looking at these 10-year projections. It's good to do them, but too much can change in 10 years. And especially when you looked at that chart for development, and we saw that after 5 years or so, they don't have any developing happening. So if those developments continue like they have in the past, these 10-year projection numbers are going to go up. So I don't think we should pay a lot of attention to that, but it's still good numbers to have in front of us. But what I do want to concentrate on is current versus the 5-year. And what this does is you can look at first grade, and you can see that currently we have right around the 320 mark. And if we go to the 5-year number, we're going to have 360. So I think that's a pretty neat chart to be able to take whatever grade level you want and say, okay, where are we now and where might we be in 5 years? The summary of that section was that we still expect a significant growth in kindergarten, that the cohorts continue to show an annual increase, that the overall projections forecast a significant increase even over the 10-year period based on historical enrollments and trends in development. Now, this is the chart I've been mentioning to you that I put together to try to pull this all together. And first, we listed Decision Insight moderate projections. We all start with the 4,429, which is the actual in 2019. So that's what the star is there. So we start with 4,429. The Decision Insight moderate projection for next year is 4,630. The conservative is 4,555, and we projected 4,552. You can go down through 2021, and again, let's concentrate on this 5-year projection. And then what we did was say, well, what's the difference between these things? So Decision Insights moderate versus conservative in 2020 has a difference of 75 students. The moderate versus the district is 78, and the conservative versus the district is 3. So when the numbers that we used and presented to you a few weeks ago, in the 5 years, we were only 7 students different than Decision Insight. So again, our numbers, our forecasting has proved accurate in the past. It's proved accurate, well, it looks like it's going to be accurate again. And the conversation I had with the Decision Insight folks is just late this afternoon, is that when we do our numbers, we don't go out and look at all the different developments and say, how many units are you going to build? What we're doing is looking at trending, and because our development's been going on for years, the trending has been going on about the same. So this number here of 7 kids in 5 years would be drastically different if they were projecting that the construction was going to drastically increase or drastically decrease. So this tells me, just as an educated guess, that we're considering that it's going to go about the same pace that it's been going the last few years. I think that's it. Any questions? Okay.
I think it's very well put together, but I hear what you're saying about the 5 years. But because there is, I can tell you Charlestown in particular, a lot of land in Charlestown that potentially could be sold within the next 5 to 10 years. So I think that it would be a benefit if that was included, to see from all the municipalities, what do they, because that's how they do their planning. I sit through a lot of township meetings where they talk about what potentially could come in. And I think that on our level, it would be valuable information to have if they could include it. I'm not saying we should necessarily pay to have that done in addition. I think what you have is really good info, but I think that it might just be one thing where you said, hey, you know what? That might be good to do, and if you could get it for free, I think that you'll have it, and it's someplace to start. So it's just a thought, but that's very well done. I'm happy with what I see.
Thank you.
That's good. It'll be interesting to see how everybody in the next, the 2 workshops takes it, right? So how, they may not tell you this answer, how accurate have their projections been for other districts? Do we know?
No.
They probably will never tell us that answer.
No, and if you take an educated guess, you would say that sometimes they've probably been extremely accurate and
Yes.
sometimes not.
Oh, I'm sure.
And always, and also, if you go out 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, you're probably gonna be pretty close.
Yeah.
It's, and then
the 10 to
there are just so
No,
many variables that no matter how good they are, you just can't get the crystal ball out and
Oh, I
predict
understand. I
everything.
just, I mean, when you did the conservative one, that matched their conservative one, so I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. And then as we walked through it further, as you went through, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that, those numbers do add up that fast, right? The moderate one seems like that's a lot of growth, I don't know. So, but that concerns me because now you're talking 2 different answers, right? If you got a middle school only problem, that's a very different answer than you got a holistic problem, right? So it'll be interesting how this all
Right.
transpires.
I think one thing to keep in mind and that we're all cognizant of, tomorrow evening, for us as a school district, we look at one set of numbers, but as architects, the worst thing they can do is to build a building that before it becomes ours, and we have the certificate of occupancy, for it to be too small, for it not to fill our capacity. So they're going to be trying to find that sweet spot to make sure that doesn't happen. But we have time. So as we look at these numbers and we realize how closely are they and which set of numbers are we more closely realizing with actuals as we move forward in the process. So that will be telling as well.
Well, but on the flip side too, we don't want to do something that's over capacity.
Absolutely.
Where we could have spent the money differently, right?
It's that sweet spot.
Yeah, we still may spend the same amount of money, we just may utilize it differently, right, at the end. That's
Right.
all I'm worried, make sure you're right. If I had the crystal ball, we'd be all good.
Right. Okay. Next, we have district goals, and the goals are here for you. I will put them in PowerPoint form. I just wanted to make sure, as you'll see, these are in draft form, and they follow the same model as in the past. We have our 4 areas of focus, which are curriculum, instruction, and student achievement. The second area is communication and culture. The third area, policies and governance. And the fourth area is finance and operations. And as we talked last year, the goals, the purpose of the goals are to build upon and grow each year. So our focus is continuing and expanding to build consistency. So we'll talk more deeply next week. I wanted you to have these so we can turn this from draft into a final copy. Next, probably an area that is very exciting to many, is the 2020-2021 school calendar. Are you able to open that, Mr. Peterson?
I don't know where the folder went.
Some highlights of that, I can,
Where's the folder?
I think if we look at the bottom there.
Oh, under the book.
So the goal is, this is a proposal today with the goal of us voting on it and approving it next week so that we can get it out there for the community so that everybody can plan next year well in advance.
Yes.
The whole
Is
purpose
it
of
in the
this.
folder, Lynn?
Some highlights of while we're getting that together, it will be posted on the website. Again, this is in draft form until the board approves it next week. The highlights of the calendar, and from feedback, we've used the calendar survey that we've had in the past, and also the feedback from our parent key communicators. The main premise is to, what we have heard, to, as best we can, try to not compromise the summer. So try to finish as soon after Memorial Day as possible and maximize our opportunity for Labor Day. So in this calendar, as you'll see, the first teacher day or opening day for all staff would be Monday, August 24th. The first student day would be Wednesday, August 26th, which by date is actually the same as this school year. So the first day for students would be on a Wednesday. Labor Day is actually September 7th. So we would have 2 weeks prior to Labor Day where students would be in school. However, the first week would be a 3-day week, the second week would be a 4-day week, the third week would be a 4-day week, and then we'd get into the regular school year
Regular rhythm.
in September, into the rhythm of the school year. Moving forward, you'll see that Built into this calendar 4 times through the year are embedded professional development opportunities. Those are found as the triangles in the calendar. The first one is October 21st, would be an early dismissal for students, and it would be teacher in service. The goal of the embedded professional development, as we all know, our goal, and when you look at the goals of the district, it is to maximize professional development to teachers, to maximize student achievement, and that is best done to give teachers the opportunity to work together to provide opportunities and then turn around and provide those opportunities to students.
Can I ask a really quick question?
Absolutely.
Does early dismissal mean half day?
Yes.
So it's the same time and that'll be posted on the website?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank
All
you.
times will be posted very clearly on the website, as well as if you go into November, you'll notice, again, this is a presidential election year, November of 2020. So Election Day is November 3rd, which is Tuesday. Conferences will be the Monday, will allow for evening conferences. Tuesday will allow for morning and afternoon conferences. So those conference times are there. They are communicated early and in advance so that folks can make decisions in childcare arrangements. You'll also notice that Thanksgiving is the 25th, 26th, and 27th. The 25th is only for teachers. And so students would be the 23rd and 24th, as is this school year. Moving into December, the early dismissal on the 23rd, then the 24th and 25th, obviously in the following week, returning to school on January 4th. Moving into January 22nd would be the second half-day early dismissal for teacher in service. February, the 12th is a teacher in service day, as is this year, the weekend of President's Day. In March, we have an early dismissal for conferences. The conferences for spring are March 11th and 12th. Moving into spring break, which is March 29th through April 2nd. Again, a lot of the surveys, as well as the PKC feedback, is it was very difficult after spring break with travel arrangements and such. So April 5th is a teacher in service day. Moving into May, Wednesday, May 19th is an early dismissal for in-service. Memorial Day is the 31st. Graduation is June 4th. The last student day is June 10th. And the last, the teacher in service is, the last teacher in service half-day is June 14th.
That's next year.
As you'll notice in our goals, we've started last year with flex sessions. Flex session opportunities are where teachers provide as well as receive professional development just in time, just aligned to the areas that they are improving upon or learning about. So those flex session opportunities will continue. And then teachers have the opportunity to flex their professional development to come in the evenings or on the weekends or on days that are off to offset other teacher work days. So a lot of really exciting things. I have to thank Dr. O'Toole for really doing an amazing job with facilitating and orchestrating the flex session options. Our goal this year is to increase that at least by 10% of offerings as well as teachers participating. And I believe it is only November, but we are well on our way to surpassing that goal. A lot of really great opportunities for teachers.
Could I interrupt with another question about the calendar? Just so everybody understands, can you explain again how snow days work?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
If you'll notice in the calendar, Act 80 is, the Act 80 of the Pennsylvania School Code is a provision that allows school districts to count student days if they're first identified and submitted to the Department of Education in advance of the calendar being approved, as there are certain things that qualify for Act 80 to count as student days. Conferences, professional development, certain meetings, teacher meetings, as well as student and staff training meetings. So you'll see the Act 80 will allow for snow makeup days to be accrued after the utilization of our Act 80. So you can see in the calendar itself, there is indication that the school calendar allows for 7 days of snow without additional student days added. If more than 7 snow days are needed, additional makeup days for students will be added to the end of the school year. This was something in the surveys as well as at PKC that was really reinforced, and I believe a legitimate perspective to be honored. The parents said, please do not take days add days into the calendar because people plan. So when you expect to have spring break and then you have snow days and you start taking days from spring break, if parents have plans or vacations, those students would then miss those days. So the calendar as is, if we have more than 7 days, and we will communicate as we've done in the past, as snow days are being accumulated, we will let folks know and especially parents know which days or at what point we would be adding to the end of the school year. Graduation is not changed. Graduation will stay as indicated on the calendar. Any other questions on the calendar? Our goal for this year was to get the calendar out for parents as soon as possible. We really do have a lot of incredible calendar information based on our surveys and our parent key communicators, our teacher casual conversations that have been held in every building, as well as our PTO leadership meetings. So I really want to thank everyone who provided us with insight so we can move forward in an informed way.
The next section of the agenda is the policy approvals, and these are the same policies that were on last month's as a first reading. This will be the second reading and adoption, and the second reading and rescinding of some policies. Are there any questions on any of those policies that we looked at last time? Okay, that takes us to the superintendent's update.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Thank you. I must say, this is my favorite part of our monthly meetings, sharing what's going on in our buildings. And as you can see, the rain certainly did not dampen the spirits of our students and staff at the elementary school Halloween parades. Throughout the district, all of the students and staff really enjoyed their annual Halloween parades and celebrations. And as Mr. Nemeth shared with us, Chick-fil-A is a hot ticket item. At Charlestown, the PTO held its annual Chick-fil-A bingo night in October, and over 200 people enjoyed great food and won some awesome prizes. Fun was had by all who attended. The drug-free poster contest is held by the National Substance Abuse Prevention, and students in 5th grade across the Commonwealth were invited to create original works of art illustrating a drug-free message. The artwork was then entered into the submission in Harrisburg, and it will be considered for inclusion in the 2020 calendar. So you can see students really enjoyed creating those messages and are looking forward to hearing how their work will be included at the state level. We had our color run at General Wayne. The students participated in October, and the run is a PTO-sponsored school event. So we had students who chose to have powder color and those that chose to run without powder, and all students had fun. And actually, some of the students that chose not to have powder said they thought next year that they might participate with a little color. So interesting. In Sugartown's annual Heritage Week took place October 21st through the 25th. The high school multicultural club once again visited Sugartown, where they took some time to help students celebrate. And as you can see, they even showed off some amazing dance moves. So everyone had a really great time. Our Great Valley Middle School cross-country team, they are here along with the girls' team and went undefeated. The boys finished the regular season with a 10-0 record and took first place at the mid-season Pottstown Invitational and concluded the season with a victory at the league championship races. Next week, we will also have our high school girls soccer team who were the Chessmont champions in the American division, and they will be here next week to be recognized. So a lot of great things happening throughout the district with our athletes, our entertainers, and our artists, as well as our academically talented children. Great Valley Middle School, Maya Moloski was awarded the Rising Artist Vocal Scholarship from Concordia Choral Arts. Maya was named the winner of the contest at Rise Up and Sing, Concordia's second annual concert in honor of the International Day of Peace. She's pictured here with State Senator Andy Dinniman, who also recognized her achievement. And once again, you will see our Quiz Bowl team does not ever disappoint. And you can see that score. We chose that picture because it really does highlight how well our students do.
Can you read that out loud, the score?
Absolutely. Great Valley, 175 points. I believe that is Coatesville with 70 points and Owen J. Roberts with 90 points. And I do have to say, I am a fan of going to watch our students. And not only are they incredibly talented, they're amazingly humble and helpful to other teams. They really do have a great reputation. I know Mr. Hess has also been there watching our students, and just, it's one thing to be winners, but it's also amazing to see how kind and helpful our students are. Really wonderful to watch. They're looking forward to an exciting year of competition. The team will next play against Unionville and Conestoga on November 14th at Unionville High School. So please know that if you are looking for something to do, it really is a great opportunity to see our students shine. And Homecoming 2019. We once again celebrated a successful homecoming in October. Congratulations to all who worked hard to make it a success, from the alumni tent to the raffle baskets to the parade and the games. Attendance was strong and many reported having a wonderful time. Special congratulations to our homecoming queen, Emily Borger, and homecoming king, Isaiah Cunningham. Many of you have probably seen on our website and on our Facebook, Isaiah Cunningham also has provided a video of his senior year. And he indicates that it is a series of videos that is the first of many, at least 4, I believe he's indicated. So a lot of great things happening, and he really captured a lot of the spirit that is going on at the high school.
We actually had Isaiah at one of the instructional tech meetings like 2 years ago.
Yes.
And he said that the one-to-one was such a boon to him because he had the iPad to start making some of these movies. So.
Isn't that amazing? And really, he included so many students and so many different groups from the high school. It was really interesting. Our Wall of Fame inductees, as part of homecoming, we inducted 3 outstanding alumni into the Wall of Fame. Inducted this year and in attendance were Catherine Barrett, class of 1972, and Scott Hennessy, class of 1977. Our third inductee was W. Eric Schrader, class of 1975. He was unable to join us, but bios and more information are available on our website at gvsd.org/Wall of Fame. Another council or group that has been formed starting last spring, but again meeting as the first time as a group, is our Council for Diversity and Inclusion. We met for the first time in October, thanks to our staff members, parents, students, and community members who are engaging in this work to recognize and celebrate the diversity of a growing Great Valley School District community in a way that maximizes opportunities to build an inclusive culture that positively impacts experiences for all. Our next meeting will be held in December. I have to say a huge thank you, as you can see, Dr. Wexler and Ms. Blake, really working with the group facilitating that meeting. And gathering insights and perspectives, because the purpose of this group is to really be the voice of moving forward and building our capacity to celebrate the diversity of all and establish that belonging that is incorporated in our goals. Finally, as you are you connected to social media accounts? There are various classrooms, documents, or departments, sports, or clubs across the district. As Mr. Nemeth shared, he also has an Instagram for the board, the student rep for the board. There are so many social media sites that are maintained by staff members. Now they are included on our website. There is a directory. Please be sure to follow, friend, like, and share. Really interesting, and I have to tell you, there is a lot of not only informative, but actually really funny and entertaining information that is posted. It's wonderful. As we had shared, there was a Skylert emergency testing on October 30th. It was the test of our emergency notification system, Skylert, for parents and guardians. Parents and staff were notified in advance, given time to check or change their contact information, and receive phone calls, emails, and text according to their set preferences. If parents or guardians or staff members did not receive that information, it would have been because their settings were not updated, and it's really important to make sure that they receive the information that they would need. Our speaker series events, we've had 2 successful events so far this year, both drawing strong attendance numbers. The last event, Kids and Stress, brought out 150 participants who learned ways that families and educators can foster resiliency and guide young people toward healthy ways to cope. Resources from this year's events are posted on our website following the event. So please be sure if you were unable to attend that you can access those resources, especially if further information is needed. Moving forward, the next speaker series event is Isolation, the New Drug of Choice, that is being held February 26th from 6:30 to 8:30 at the high school. Clearing the Air, this event focuses on vaping and is a repeat. This was very well received last year, and we are hoping, the content actually, as we're all aware, more information has become available as to the health implications, and that information will be updated for this year's presentation. Finally, April 15th, Screenagers, which is digital awareness. That is April 15th from 6:30 to 8:30 at the high school. Please check the website. All of these events are free, but in order for us to plan best, please register ahead of time so that we can be sure to accommodate everyone's needs. The feasibility study, we had our first meeting in October. We're moving now into parts 1 and 2 of the workshop meetings. The community workshop first meeting is held tomorrow evening at 6:30 to 8:30 at the high school. That will be held in the cafeteria. We are watching the weather and are very cognizant of the fact that we are expecting some precipitation tomorrow. We are hoping if people are doing the snow dance, would they also do the high temperature dance in accordance with that, so that it would not impact. But we are watching. As of right now, it appears as though we should not have any problems. But as we know, last year at this time, it was November, where the forecast did not align to the reality of the storm, and it created quite a lot of havoc. So this year, we're going to be watching, and if the workshop is going to be postponed, those who registered will be communicated with directly. If folks did not register but plan on attend, please maintain or check in with the website and the Facebook page, because any changes would be posted there. Finally, God bless you. Finally, the second part of the community workshop will be held December 9th from 6:30 to 8:30, again in the high school cafeteria. Once again, it is free. All are encouraged to attend, but please register online so that we are sure to accommodate everyone who chooses to participate. Upcoming events, November 12th, tomorrow, we have an author visit at General Wayne. Our facilities subcommittee meeting that is not at the district office. That is also at the high school at 6 o'clock. We moved the location so that we could have the facilities subcommittee meeting prior to the workshop and all be in one place. November 14th is our Sugartown Spelling Bee and the middle school musical at General Wayne. A reminder that the musical is November 14th, 15th, and 16th. All middle school musicals are held at General Wayne Elementary School. November 15th is the Charlestown Turkey Trot at 1:45. And November 18th is American Education Week. That runs through November 22nd. And there's a lot to celebrate. So you'll see a lot of events that will be posted and notices posted on the website as well as the Facebook page. Our school board meeting, the voting meeting will be held next Monday as well at 7:30. Upcoming events, November 19th, second grade concert, November 21st, General Wayne Kindergarten Play, November 22nd, Middle School Heritage Fest, Charlestown Kindergarten Thanksgiving Play, High School Fall Drama is held on November 22nd and 23rd, and the times are posted there. As we said, Thanksgiving recess will be November 27th through the 29th. So we have a lot to be thankful for with amazing students and staff. Thank you.
All right. All right, nothing under facilities discussion, sorry. Oh, boarding use, building use report, sorry.
Under transportation, we have approval for 3 bus drivers for CRAF. Under food service, we have the annual NetServe Net Share program, where the board has agreed to provide a 35% net share of the net profit to the staff that generate the great food, and they're being fiscally sound and prudent with their programs. And the amount of money this year that's generated by the 35% is $8,015.76. Under finance, we have a couple donations to the high school music programs. The first is to the choral music program, and that's a donation of $875. Both of these donations are anonymous. The first one's $875, and the donor designated the funds be used for the high school music program. And I'll skip to 9.03 and then move back. That's also a donation to the high school music program of $875 by the anonymous donor for the high school instrumental music
I
program.
have a question about anonymous donors.
Yes, sir.
Who knows actually? Because, so like, for example, I think last month there was a anonymous donation to robotics. Does like the robotics teacher know who made that donation?
I think it would be a case-by-case basis. Sometimes they might and sometimes they might not. But in these cases, when it's on the agenda as anonymous, the person, if we do know who it is, has definitely said that they don't want their name to be announced.
Okay.
Okay. Item 9.02 is another donation. This one's to Katie Markley, and it's from the Katie Markley PTO in the amount of $7,438.82. And that money is designated for upgrades to the sound system and a large screen television, both for the gymnasium. So we're going to accept those funds, and then we'll facilitate the installation of the TV and the upgrades to the sound system. On 9.04, we have a donation of trees from Navarro Landscaping to the General Wayne Elementary and Great Valley High School. The company is generously donating the 2 trees. One is in memory of Julia Bitto, and one is for the Great Valley High School in honor of Skylar Seeley. The trees will be planted on or before November 23rd, and then there will be gold ribbons will be sold to raise awareness of childhood cancer, as well as funds for the Julia Bitto Memorial Park Fund and Seeley family. The hope is to cover the trees with gold ribbons to honor and raise awareness of children who have suffered or are suffering from cancer. 9.05 is a contract with Applied Video Technology. We'd be purchasing a 24-hour block of service for customer support. at a cost of $2,992.50. So that will give us the ability to get those services as needed for the various video and audio sound systems throughout the school district, including the one in the boardroom. And we'll have to get them in here to fix the microphone for the podium. Next is the flexible spending account. This is asking the board to approve a new plan document for the flexible spending account program. Plan documents are required by the IRS to be in place and approved by the governing body to have these programs. Great Valley has had one for years. This plan document update will make sure we're in compliance with current IRS regulations. And the two main changes, if not the only changes, are to revise the carryover provision of the plan and to authorize a limited purpose FSA for dental and vision expenses only for employees that are on the district's high deductible plan. We have under 9.07 a contract with District Management Group. The board approved a contract last year, and the group was very successful in helping our elementary schools with scheduling. And would you like to take that one?
Yes, we've been working with District Management Group now for 2+ years. They've really worked with us well and worked with the elementary principals on our scheduling. We are now in the process of moving that work to the middle school, not only to continue the success with scheduling at the elementary, but as we're doing the feasibility study to really look at how we can maximize the capacity, because we're working on the feasibility study and what we're going to do in the future, but we have a more immediate need into 2020, 2021. So District Management Group will be working with Dr. O'Toole and his team, as well as Dr. Souders and his team. We will be including staff from the middle school as well to be in those conversations to move us forward. Also with District Management Group, we've been working with them, as we talked about in the spring of last year, with AROI, or Academic Return on Investment, and we've been using that model. We used it primarily with our full-day kindergarten communication plan and planning strategy. We will be using that model again, and this is the same group that we did that with. So we're really looking forward to continuing our partnership and growing that partnership for the benefit of our students.
And we want to mention that there's a lack of details on this evening's agenda for that contract, because we're still negotiating the terms and conditions of the contract, the services that will be provided and the cost of that, and we'll get that information out to the board as soon as possible. We would have deferred that till next month, but given the urgency of planning throughout the year for potential scheduling changes for next year, we'd like to get that started as soon as possible if we can get the details done to the board's satisfaction at next week's meeting. Finally, we have a contract, several contracts with LearnWell for student services for partial hospitalization programs, and the 4 student IDs are listed there with those contracts. And that's everything under finance.
All right, thank you. Anything else under other items? Nothing's listed here.
No?
Just the draft agenda.
Draft agenda is there. Any other board comments or committee reports I missed?
Just a reminder that I will be off the board and that you guys will need to elect a new treasurer. Just putting it out there
Yep.
as just a reminder.
Yep, we got it.
Thank you, Steph.
But we're keeping you on as policy, right?
Yeah, right.
Policy consultant?
You are in such good hands with Samantha, it's not even funny. So, and then obviously, everybody else there too.
You trained her well, thank you. No, it's good. All righty. Board met in executive session beforehand to discuss some, personnel and a couple legal issues. Other than that, meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.